Welcome everyone to this channel where I will be sharing episode reviews of that 1960s television show that I enjoy so much, Lost in Space. I encourage you to like and subscribe so that you don't miss each new installment as I work my way through all 83 episodes of this wonderful series. Up next, Season 1, Episode 10, The Sky is Falling. A family of alien colonists arrive on the Robinsons' planet, a man, woman, and a young boy. They beam to this planet via molecular transfer. Dr. Smith is concerned that, as more of these aliens come to settle, he, Don, and the Robinsons will eventually be subjugated. Against orders, he meets with the male visitor, and the exchange goes poorly. Will and the young boy, however, have a rather friendly interaction. Unfortunately, the alien boy falls ill, and Will stays to care for him. With neither boy returning to their families that evening, everyone grows concerned. The Robinsons begin to think that the aliens have taken Will, and the aliens likewise assume that the Robinsons have taken their son. With that, a path to hostilities has been laid. This is the 10th episode in the series, and I love nearly everything about it. I very much enjoy this week's aliens, which are, somewhat inexplicably, referred to as Taurons, but more on that later. As is the practice throughout most of Season 1, these aliens do not magically speak English. Indeed, they don't speak audibly at all. They are also not the typical furry monster with horns kind of aliens. These aliens are more humanoid and quite sophisticated, indeed, more advanced than we are. The story itself moves a bit slowly at times. There is little in the way of action until the climax, but that climax is one that really delivers. So with that, let's get on with our story. The opening scene features Smith and Judy. It is one that could easily be viewed as silly, Smith escaping work with positively ridiculous excuses. But for me and my tastes, I love this scene. Yes, Smith's explanation is preposterous, and it is clear that Judy is not buying it. Smith, characteristically, presses on, continuing to deliver his explanation with a real conviction. I do find some humor in these lines, as well as how those lines are delivered by both Jonathan and Marta. Ultimately, Judy gives up on having Smith offer any help and steps away. Just as Smith settles back into his nap, the robot raises a warning, and from behind the brush, a mechanical device emerges. With its whirring and beeping, it approaches Smith, who lets out one of his characteristic screams as it comes to actually touch him. After a moment, the probe backs away. Smith jumps up and dashes back to the Jupiter. Safely inside the ship, the family responds to Smith's call for help, but they struggle to get a clear picture of exactly what has him so alarmed. Just then, Smith hears the probe's mechanical sounds as it begins to approach the Jupiter. The probe makes its way up the ship's ramp and amazingly begins to disappear, only to then rematerialize and appear inside the Jupiter. The ever-curious Will begins to approach the device, and John steps in to grab him. As he does, John's boot makes contact with the probe, and it immediately deactivates. With that, they all bring the alien device down to the lab for some examination. In considering its ability to get into the Jupiter, John introduces the concept of matter transfer, that molecules can be broken down in one place and sent elsewhere, where they are reassembled, making it clear that whoever sent this drone is an extremely intelligent form of life. John discovers that the probe has gathered geologic samples. Don conjectures that it may have been sent by an alien civilization to determine whether their planet is suitable for their form of life. Will asks if this means they will have visitors. Smith immediately characterizes them instead as invaders. The men wrap up their analysis for now and step away from the lab. The probe, which has remained dormant during their examination, suddenly springs back to life. In the galley, the men sit down as Maureen carries in a freshly baked cake. Just as she prepares to cut into the cake, it disappears. Along with Will's notes of disappointment, Smith immediately assumes it was the work of whatever aliens sent the probe, or as he characterizes them, a cruel adversary. Don imagines that they just wanted the cake for a specimen. Quite reasonably, though, Smith poses the question.
What happens when they decide they need a human for a specimen?
Later, John and Don do a bit of looking around to see if they can discern where the coming aliens may choose to land. Meanwhile, Will is out rock hunting when he sees a beam of light come down from the sky. Within that beam, some kind of advanced device begins to become visible, along with a humanoid alien standing behind it. Cautiously, Will approaches the alien and offers some friendly statements. The alien, however, stands silent, and after a few moments, Will grows fearful and runs off. Will catches up with John and Don and begins to describe what he has just seen. At first, John chastises his son and demands caution, but then listens intently as Will describes what he saw. John, Don, and Will walk over to the landing site, but when they arrive, the man is gone. One electronic device is all that is present. After some examination, John assumes that it is some sort of matter transfer device, maybe even the one that reassembles the molecules. Will looks forward to making contact with the aliens, but John reasonably states that depends on whether they want to be friends or enemies. John wants to get back to the ship, and once they leave, the alien emerges from behind a rock, having been there the entire time. Back at the Jupiter, John reports to the family that they do indeed have visitors, and Will has already seen one of them. While the men were away, Smith had the robot analyze the probe that they have come to refer to as the Crab. The robot identifies the visitors as warm-blooded mammalians of human proportions, and that as yet there is only the one. John is quick to remind everyone, Smith in particular, that the visitors have shown no aggression, and that they are all to do likewise, treating the visitors only with friendliness and kindness. Just then, 2 more beams of light become visible over the horizon. As Dr. Smith characterized it, it is positively raining aliens. Smith determines to seek out the aliens. Accompanied by the robot, he sets the Crab down on the ground and sends it off, hoping to follow it to their camp. Sure enough, the probe leads Smith to the aliens. He tries to introduce himself to the male alien, but it is clear that he does not understand. Smith asks how many will come. The alien seems to gesture to just themselves, but Smith misinterprets this to mean thousands. As so often, Smith tries to ingratiate himself, offering to act as a guide and as someone who can, as he describes it, control the natives. Smith is wearing a holster in which he has a laser pistol. The alien, who is unarmed, points to Smith's laser, but Smith is not willing to set his arms aside. The alien takes a step towards Smith, and Smith draws a laser pointing it at the alien, threatening to shoot. The female alien fetches their own laser rifle and hands it to her companion. Smith, now running off, declares that they should remember that they are the ones who started this fight. Meanwhile, Will is once more off rock hunting when the small alien boy spots him. Will approaches him with a friendly greeting and tries to communicate, but it is clear that the boy does not understand. After a time, there is an alarm of some kind. We are left to interpret it as the alien parents calling their son home as he quickly runs off in response. It is not clear, but it would seem that Will is unable to hear that sound. Over dinner, Will reports out to the family about his interaction with the alien boy, expressing the entire exchange as a friendly one. John hypothesizes that the aliens may be here to do what they themselves set out to do, find a planet suitable for colonization. Will reasserts that they should not have much to worry about as the boy was clearly friendly. At this moment, though, Smith returns from his own visit to the alien camp, laser and holster still hanging from his hips. He dismisses Will's assessment, announcing that he has just met the aliens and has determined them to be decidedly hostile. Indeed, he is already referring to them as the enemy. He goes on to describe how thousands more will be coming, ultimately dedicated to all of their destruction. John delivers a stern warning as to how all should treat the alien visitors, after which Smith launches into a bit of a tirade. I always get a smile as I scan the table and see everyone's reaction to Smith's hyperbole, John and Will in particular.
I am a realistic man, Major. Only a fool closes his eyes to the truth. But let's examine the situation, shall we? You think our visitors are friendly? All right. Suppose they are. But how long do you think that will last? On the one hand, tens of thousands of aliens, and on the other hand, ourselves. Eventually, we will become the curiosities. Outlandish creatures to be pointed out and stared at. Freaks, animals. That's what we will appear to be to them. And then what do you think will happen? They'll put us into cages. Hurry, 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 see the strange creatures, watch them eat, drink, sleep. Only a quarter, folks.
Oh, Dr. Smith, please do sit down and have some dinner.
Thank you, no, madam. Although I am a condemned man, I cannot eat a hearty meal.
In fairness to Smith, though, his alarm, though not necessarily correct, is not entirely unreasonable. The following day, Will and the alien boy once again come upon one another. The boy hands Will a ball. He has Will throw it, and Will discovers that the ball circles back such that he could play catch all by himself. The small boy offers it to Will as a gift, but Will says he can't accept it. Will lets out a bit of a sneeze, and the boy almost immediately falls ill. Will stays with the alien boy to care for him overnight, but with neither boy returning home to their families that evening, we start to see parallel scenes play out. Both mothers expressing their worry, and both fathers heading out to search for their missing sons. Will, however, has found a cave in which to rest the young alien, so the boys end up going unfound. Will knows their parents will be worried, but the alien boy is not up to walking back to his camp, and Will feels he can't leave him alone, so as he says, there's nothing they can do but wait. Next, we see Don and John, and then separately, the alien father, on their search. The alien grows a bit extra alarmed when he discovers his son's ball, but finds that his son is nowhere in sight. Meanwhile, back at the Jupiter, Smith engages with the robot. Noting how late it is, plus the fact that Will has still not returned, he begins to expect what he calls foul play. Smith lines here once more reveal his Machiavellian inclinations.
Returned, eh? One might almost suspect foul play.
Existing evidence does not bear out that supposition.
Evidence? What do I care about evidence? I need every tool at my disposal. Those aliens will have us in cages if we don't destroy them first.
Existing evidence does not...
Oh, shut up. If the Robinsons were to believe that their son was in the hands of the alien, they might finally take the necessary action. Where emotion is involved, evidence is not required. Only the right word in the right ear at the right time.
Down on the lower deck of the Jupiter, Smith begins to throw the levers of his plan. The women are already agitated with worry as Smith begins to admire what he calls their pioneer spirit, that they carry on bravely in spite of the possibility that Will may have been captured and is possibly already even being tortured. In true Smith fashion, long after anyone else might have stopped, he presses on with his assertions, trying to plant fear and worry in Maureen's mind. He wraps up by calling for an armed confrontation with those who he continues to describe as the enemy. Just then, Penny announces that John and Don have returned and everyone races to the upper deck. Smith catches Don while he's still outside, saying that he knows where to find Will, at the alien campsite. Don makes a threatening move towards Smith as his frustration over not finding Will is clear because, as Smith asks,
Shut up! Raising your voice does nothing to alter the facts. If Will is not at the alien camp, where is he? Shove off on it.
At the alien camp, we see the mother setting out 3 place settings. She approaches the father, but he waves her off, clearly too upset and distracted to eat. The scene is then essentially replicated back at the Jupiter. Maureen coming to tell John that his dinner is getting cold, John saying that he's not particularly hungry. Later, in the galley, Maureen is sitting at the table quite obviously distracted. Penny comes over and offers to clear the table for her. Penny then says she's been talking to Dr. Smith and she openly wonders if maybe he's right. She goes on to say that Judy also thinks the same way about it. This plants yet another poisonous seed in Maureen's mind. She steps away from the table and comes to their cabin where John is resting but unable to sleep. Maureen suggests that maybe he go to the alien camp after all. Here, John shares his thoughts on why that is not such an easy decision to make.
One moment it's yes, next no. You see, if we were on Earth, I'd know exactly how to handle this situation. But in this alien world with alien people, an alien morality,
I know.
it'd be just too easy to make mistakes. And I wouldn't want to do anything that we'd all be sorry for later.
Later that evening, John has a walk around camp and comes upon Don, who is also awake, likewise too busy thinking about Will to sleep. John shares how Maureen thinks maybe they should go to the alien camp. As much as Don hates to admit it, he says Smith may be right. Then there's an insightful couple of lines between them.
Will said the boy he met appeared to be friendly.
He didn't meet the parents.
No. It seems that youngsters from everywhere can get along. It's the adults who are always at each other's throats.
John checks his watch and sees that it will be dawn in a few hours. He now says they should plan to go to the alien camp in the morning. Meanwhile, we get a quick look back at the cave where, with the coming of the new day, Will is determined to bring the alien boy back to his camp. That morning, in spite of Smith's protestations, John, Don, and Smith arm themselves and head out for the alien camp. Smith points it out and predictably suggests that he should stay behind to provide a rear guard. Just as predictably, John says he will come along with them. As the men approach, the aliens see them coming and that they are carrying arms. The aliens likewise reach for their laser rifles. The female alien gets down behind a rock with her laser rifle, while the male goes out to confront the men. John determines that he will go in alone to try to communicate with the alien. He is very clear, no shooting unless they start. Cautiously, bravely, John approaches the Tauron, stopping only about a foot from the barrel of his laser. To communicate that he does not wish for hostilities, John drops both of his lasers to the ground, at which time the alien also lowers his. Unfortunately, as John tries to express that he's looking for his son, the alien comes to the mistaken belief that he is describing that they have the alien's son. Don and Smith, looking on, recognize that the exchange is not going well. Smith says that with any hint of danger, they shoot, but Don reinforces John's order that they not fire. John begins to notice the female alien rising up from behind the rocks with her laser rifle. Smith loses his nerve and fires, and the aliens return fire. John swats away the male alien's laser, grabs his own from the ground, and seeks cover back behind the rocks with Don and Smith. There, John chastises Smith for having fired, but in fairness, it was not unreasonable for Smith to believe that he may just have saved John's life. The men and the Taurons find themselves in a bit of a standoff, just as Will and the small alien boy come within earshot of the battle. Will has the boy rest on the ground and then runs ahead to John. Will explains to him that he was out all night tending to the sick alien boy. While John now knows that the aliens obviously never had Will, it also becomes amply clear that the aliens will believe that the Robinsons have been holding their boy all this time. John determines to get the alien boy and bring him back to his parents, recognizing the danger that the Taurons will mistakenly believe that he had him all this time. John finds the young boy, and once he has gained his confidence, picks him up and starts to head back for the alien camp. Slowly, John comes into view of the Tauron couple with their son in his arms. They advance, the male keeping his laser rifle trained on John. John sets the boy down, and the female alien runs forward to hug her son. For a moment, it feels as though the entire climax may be fully resolved. That is, until the woman alien points an angry finger at John, and the male alien once again raises his laser. From behind the rocks, Don is continuing to hold fire as ordered. Just then, though, Will comes running out and throws himself in front of his father, calling out, "No, no!" John throws Will out of the way and continues to stand bravely before the alien and his laser, hoping to communicate that he has nothing to fear as he did nothing wrong. You can see the hesitation in the male alien's face, fighting with himself over whether or not to fire. Is it because he no longer thinks John had his son? Or is it because he now sees John as he sees himself, a dad who simply loves his son just like he does? Here, the young alien boy rises to his feet, walks over to Will, and shakes his hand in friendship. With that, the aliens exhibit a better understanding, lower their weapons, and regather as a family. As one final act of trust, John picks up the alien's laser rifle from the ground and hands it back to him. With that, the entire family beams back up off the planet. John, Don, Smith, and Will walk around the remains of the alien camp. Will is disappointed to see them go, thinking that somehow they could have established positive relationships. John explains, however, that the Taurons had no immunity against human diseases, and that made this planet unsuitable for their colonization. So as to make for a happy ending, Don picks up the alien's ball. It is handed to Smith, who tosses it and asks what's supposed to happen, just as the ball returns to bop him on the back of the head. With that final smile for all but Smith, they head back to the Jupiter. That brings us to our next scene, which actually sets up our next episode, Wish Upon a Star. As always, I will withhold my comments until my review of that episode. So with that, let's consider the pluses and minuses with this episode. The list of pluses is a rather long one, as The Sky is Falling is truly a great one on many levels. For one thing, it's a true ensemble cast episode, one that features everyone in a meaningful way. That's actually true for most of Season 1, but certainly not for the full series, so I always make a point of appreciating that quality when we have it for now. Digging further into the cast and their interactions, I enjoy seeing John in his leadership role, guiding all on the need to be cautious in dealing with the visitors. I especially enjoy his steadfast courage at the end of this episode, staring down the aliens as they have their lasers trained on him, hoping they will understand him and his intent. This episode also has an ample supply of what is so often missing in later episodes, genuine worry and apprehension. There are some wonderful moments as each member of the party misses and worries about Will. I think Penny and Maureen's scene in particular is a strong one, as is John's and Maureen's. This is something that gradually disappears from the series. By Season 2, Will might be missing overnight, captured by some aliens, and John and Maureen act as if he's simply late coming home from a neighbor's house. What we have in this episode is obviously so much more believable and dramatic. I also love the aliens in this episode. I like their appearance, clearly humanoid, clearly advanced, but also clearly alien. We are still in the early stages of the series when aliens do not magically speak English. Indeed, these aliens, of course, do not speak audibly at all. And it works. Without saying a word, their emotions and their intent are always clearly expressed and understood. Along these same lines, this is another believable science fiction episode. In addition to the nature of the aliens, there is all of their equipment. The crab probe, doing data collection and other scientific work in advance of their arrival, and all of the eye candy that comprises their camp. It's fun to hear John deduce the nature of the Tauron's probe, hypothesize about their use of matter transfer, or even listen to the robot describe what he has been able to discern about the visitors. As is so often the case, some of the coolest things are small details that can easily go unnoticed. What I'm thinking of here is the large boulder at the back of the alien camp. Originally, their camp area was surrounded by boulders and assorted other stones. After their full camp is beamed down, it's as if it just blew through whatever rock was in the way. Again, I'm thinking of the boulder behind the camp that now has a smooth surface, as though it was carved flat by the emergence of the camp. We get a better look at this when Don goes to pick up the ball that has come to rest against that now flat stone. John also examines this now smoothly carved boulder. It is a small detail, and again one that is easily overlooked, but it's these details that really can make a statement and add credibility to the episode. Another small but much more obvious detail is the ray beam shot from the Tauron's laser rifle. Unlike virtually every other laser beam we will see throughout the entire rest of the series, their laser shoots a series of O's. This is certainly not a big deal, but it is yet another small detail and variation that simply adds to this episode's visual interest. Then there is, of course, Smith's role in this episode. He is most fun when he is being manipulative, and there's no shortage of that here as he works to plant the seeds of fear and worry into everyone's mind. Indeed, he is ultimately even successful at persuading the men to engage in the confrontation, something that they were very much against earlier in the episode. I love the extended climax of this episode. There's all that build-up to when Smith and the alien woman fire and things begin to fall apart. There is then the more tense and dramatic second climax when John returns the alien boy. It is so well played by all, especially Guy Williams, but also Don Matheson and Francois Bush as the aliens. Definitely one of the best conclusions of the entire series. Best of all, of course, are the parallels that are so effectively drawn between the Robinsons and the Taurons, parallels that are central to the story. There's the concern over a lost boy, the distrust of people who are different and can't understand each other. The Sky is Falling is one of many Lost in Space episodes written around a moral theme. In this instance, that as much as we are all different, we look different, we come from different places, we are still essentially all the same. Additionally, this episode asks the very worthwhile question: if we as children are able to get along based on what makes us the same, why do we as adults allow our differences to sow the seeds of anger and distrust? So after that long list of positives, what are this episode's negatives, or things that I at least wish were done better? Well, for me and my taste, there's really only a couple. One is the so-called crab. Admittedly, it's kind of cool, but the claw and antenna look a little bit cheesy. Indeed, the whole thing looks a little like an elementary school art project built around a Volkswagen Beetle headlight. In fairness, we are now viewing these episodes on very large screens in high definition. Back in the 60s, you were happy to see the show on a 19-inch TV with a dodgy horizontal hold and rabbit ears barely pulling in the signal, so it's easy for me to give this one a pass. Also, this episode was clearly subject to some very choppy editing. The alien boy fell ill because Will sneezed, and that passed on some pathogens to the boy. At the end of the episode, we hear John describe this to Will, even though John never actually had the opportunity to learn any of this. There's also the fact that John refers to the aliens as Taurons. Well, how did he know that? The Taurons didn't even speak. Clearly, a little more attention could have been paid to the final version of the script. A side note here, though, Tauron must be a real happening place, as we will hear references to it in, I believe, as many as 6 different episodes. While I very much enjoy The Sky is Falling, there are times when it can be fairly slow-moving. While I appreciate John's thoughtful perspective on approaching and dealing with the Taurons, it's also hard to believe that he would not scout the Tauron camp sooner to see if he can at least detect some sign of Will. While his apprehension over possibly setting the stage for conflict is understandable, and that is an important element of the story being told here, it's hard to believe that a dad's anxiety over his missing son wouldn't override that caution much sooner than it did. Before I move on to my grade and ranking, I thought I'd share an observation here about the robot. I imagine, like most of us, I always assumed the robot's sensors that would allow him to become aware of approaching danger were in his bubble somewhere, or maybe those little paddles just below his bubble. Having watched these shows many times, I have slowly come to conclude that the robot's sensors were actually in his claws. As the crab first approaches, before the robot calls out his warning, we see him extend his arms for what I now interpret to be some scanning of the area. Later, when Smith has the robot analyze the crab as well as the alien visitors, before stating anything, the robot once again fully extends his claws. This is something we actually see quite often throughout Season 1. It occurred during Welcome Stranger as the robot senses the approach of Hapgood for the first time. We will see it again in the War of the Robots as the robot first becomes aware of the presence of the Robotoid. Like so many things, this feature does end up going away by Season 2, but once you become aware of it, it's surprising how often we see this during Season 1. I had never really given it too much thought previously, but have since come to conclude that it is through his claws that the robot is able to scan the area and sense approaching danger. So with that, I can say the minuses are generally minor, and they are completely overwhelmed by all the excitement, drama, and sci-fi goodness this episode has to offer. Yes, this episode does have a slower and less action-oriented pace than others, at least up until we get to the climax, but that climax is pretty spectacular and really delivers. As much as this is a great episode, I don't consider it to be truly top tier at the same level of episodes like The Derelict or Island in the Sky. For me, I grade The Sky is Falling as still a very strong A-. I'm ranking it 20th for the season. For the full series, I rank this 36th, just outside the top third of all episodes. Considering the disparate rankings for this episode, it becomes one more illustration of just how strong Season 1 is. That The Sky is Falling should be top third for the series, while ending up near the bottom for just Season 1. With that, let me give the last word to our manipulative genius as he shares with us some insight into both his manipulation as well as his genius.
You're probably thinking, what kind of man would use a parent's love for his own preservation? And you're exactly right. My kind of man.
If you would like to see the full series, at the time of this recording, it presently airs for free on MeTV. That said, you can still find the series on DVD. Better still, pick up Lost in Space on Blu-ray. On that set, the image quality has been sharpened, and there is some excellent bonus material, including commentary by some of the cast. Like I said, I'm a fan, and for me at least, the Blu-ray is a must-have. I hope you enjoyed my thoughts on The Sky is Falling. One of the things I enjoy most about sharing reviews like this is how different fans perceive each episode quite differently, and I invite you to leave your own perspectives below in the comments. Most of all, I hope you will come back to join me when I review our next episode, Wish Upon a Star, yet another favorite of Season 1. Once again, I recommend subscribing so that you don't miss each new installment. Thanks for watching.